now we're in chapter 3 of Genesis. We now know of Adam and this woman, and they're naked and unashamed, eating fruit in the garden. Now, when God placed Adam in the garden, God commanded Adam not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's chapter 2, verse 17. From any tree of the garden you may eat, and that included the tree of life. Now, God did say, do not eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, if this was me and you like even looking at this presentation, you see do not eat highlighted. If I was in the garden and you said do not eat, now that's all I'm focusing on is, oh my gosh, what? I can't eat that, but that's all I see. It's important to note though that the Bible doesn't say that the tree was bad. It was only bad for man to eat of that tree. So, because I've been asked, well, why would God put a bad tree in the garden? No, the tree isn't bad. It was bad for man to eat from the tree. Now, think of it in this way. There's some things that your dog can eat, that a crow can eat, that humans can't eat. It'd be poisonous to humans. That's exactly how you got to look at this. The tree isn't bad. It was just bad for man to eat from it. So do not eat from that tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now, a literally talking snake walks into the garden. No, that's not true. I put the Hebrew term on the screen here. It's a serpent that enters the garden. Now, the Hebrew term describes the serpent's character. We have the noun, which is snake, the verb deceiver, adjective shining one. In this presentation, I'm going to use the adjective, and I like it because it's relatable, because sometimes temptation comes in looking like a snack, meaning looking good when it's really not good for you. And that's exactly how the serpent approaches Eve. And I'm going to use the serpent as a used car salesman. If anybody's bought a car, you know that the salesperson doesn't leave you alone. They have clever wordplay and they offer you out of these world deals. And that's exactly how this serpent approaches Eve. Hey, did God say you really can't eat from that fruit? Now Eve responds, I am not to touch or eat from that tree. God said I would die. Now the serpent responds, you can't die from eating fruit. If you've ever bought a car, hey, how much do you want to pay for it? Focusing on the payment and not the interest, right? So the serpent then says, hey, this is good fruit. It's actually so good that God doesn't want to share it with you. And that's why he's forbidden you from it. So, salesman serpent, great smile, talks the talk, very convincing. So, if you're Eve and this knowledgeable, pretty good looking individual brings some valid points to the table, she begins to question her boundaries. Now, read the text in chapter 2, verse 16. It says, the Lord commanded the man to not eat from the tree. Reading the text slowly leads me to believe that perhaps this is second knowledge to Eve, which is probably why she was more vulnerable to temptation. And I'm not saying that Adam wasn't, but it hits different when someone tells you directly versus indirect, right? For example, you're in your living room eating Doritos and your brother walks in and says, Dad says you can't eat those Doritos. And you're like, really? Dad didn't tell me that. So that's what I'm leading to believe here. So regardless, Eve eventually eats the fruit. Note, it's a fruit. I don't know where this apple came from. It's a fruit. So she eats of this fruit. Eve gives in to this snake salesman, and now all of humanity is stuck with the long-term interest loan. Hidden fees too. So let's go forward with, did they die?